Welcome to another episode of Roll Call, TTSH Nursing's very own podcast, brought to you by TTSH Nursing Organisation Development. I'm Kim, and I'll be your host for this episode. So I'm not sure whether you've noticed, but at the start of all our episodes, I always mention Nursing Organisation Development, NOD, NOD. What is actually NOD? You might be wondering. So for today's episode, I actually brought the experts, my bosses, Brother James and Sister Cui Er.
Hello.
Welcome to the podcast. So before we begin, could you share with us more about yourselves?
Hi, my name is James Ang, Assistant Director of Nursing for TTSH. So, some facts about me: I've been with TTSH for 18 years, and it's my first job. And I'm wearing different hats for different job scope. But for today, for roll call, I'll be wearing the hat of Nursing Organisation Development. Yep.
Sister?
Yeah, hi, my name is Cui Er. Many find it very hard to pronounce my name, so they prefer to call me Cui Er, which is my Chinese name, or my nurses like to call me Sister Fu. So I'm also a nurse in TTSH for the past 18 years.
Wow.
And I've been taking care of, for now, my role is to take care of the department in the main TTSH wards.
I mentioned earlier, right, we always mention nursing organisation development. I think that that's something that might be a bit new to nurses or to many in TTSH. So what is actually nursing organisation development about, and why was it formed in the first place?
Okay, if allow me, nurses makes up the biggest healthcare population in any care systems. And for us nurses to show up and to support the care system, it relies a lot on how we communicate and how we interface with one another. Communication is nothing new to TTSH nurses. In fact, for the last few years, we have been preparing and training some of our nurses to do communication work, such as, I think, external branding for recruitment, internal staff engagement for feedback, as well as crisis communication during COVID. So now coming out from COVID, if you're inside of the healthcare, you would know that healthcare is a totally different animal now. And we are now ushered into a brand new container of very complex polarities without easy answers. Some examples I could think of is that how do you, let's say, balance high tech? We talk all about high tech and high touch at the same time. So not so easy. The other one would be how do you build workplace inclusivity, yet accommodate for workforce diversity.
Yeah.
So these are not so easy questions that we have to ask ourselves, and it has become very, very clear that beyond clinical competency, the nurse leaders of tomorrow now would have to learn new skills on how to navigate complex and constant changes so that they could help their nurses on the ground to make sense of their work, their purpose at bedside, as well as help to see how she could allow the team to work more effectively. But traditionally, what we would do with navigating complex changes with our nurses is we can use communication and staff engagement as one of the ways. Typically, we'll do the push and pull method. But now we know that with this complex care environment, this method may not work so well.
Yeah.
So nursing, this is where nursing OD comes in. We focus on really looking at the system itself, see how the system works, as well as the human factors within the system. All right, our approach, an analogy would be standing on the balcony, overviewing the dance floor, and looking at how the different dance group moves, interacts, and work with each other. Of course, we are not just mere observer on the balcony. Based on the strategic direction, what we will do is also we will assess and co-design intervention, workshops, campaign, as well as communication initiatives for our nurses, for them to better align and for them to work better. So podcast is one of the initiatives that we have in mind, because if you go back to what Chief Nurse said in episode 1, she spoke about, I think, two key things about the system as well as the people in it. The system needs to be open and inclusive so people feel safe. Okay, so then what happens next is that then where we come in is to look at how do we maintain and develop such systems. So this is why we call nursing organisation development. Of course, the disclaimer is that actually there are a lot of people who have been looking at different pieces of work namely the education, manpower, as well as quality. We all are looking to support nurses and as well as helping to develop this cultural elephant. I call it different parts of the elephant. So where we come in, we hope to help make sense of things, to really value add by helping them to do their work easier.
Yeah.
As well as, I think one of the bigger goal with the strategy is to how can we develop one coherent, collective change narrative so that the nurses can understand. And this brings back to the point of the podcast. So what we have in mind was that the nursing workforce is undergoing so much changes. So if I use the very traditional way, I would then invite nurse leader, give the nurse leader a podium, give him a deck of 30 slides, we tell the nurses we should do X. It doesn't work anymore.
Yeah.
So we decided to take the bold choice to open this format up publicly for both the leaders and the nurses, which are the people in the system, to enter into a shared space for them to hear each other out.
Yeah.
As well as an opportunity to educate the public about the good work that the nurses are doing.
So other than the podcast, are there any other initiatives or projects that are in place to, help our organization develop?
So yes, so podcast is one. It's more targeted at the nurses in a more informal, casual way.
Yeah.
To bring change information to them and for them also to question and feedback for us.
Yep.
And I think you're doing excellent work here, Kimberly.
Thank you.
Yes. So for the nursing officer, what we are trying to do is also to build a community of peer support where we are redesigning our nursing officer forums with some coaching, leading and teaming tools and help them support one another to practice all these tools on the ground when leading their units.
Being in such a huge organization, right? If we just focus on clinical, I feel like it's not a holistic way to look at your work. You know what I mean? Like there's managing people.
Maybe one thing that I could layer in at this point, why the focus on teaming is that if you look at the Olympics, it's just around the corner. So nursing is definitely not a single sport.
Yeah.
Single sport is, I don't know.
Breakdancing.
So it's really a team sport where it's exactly like soccer. It's not like boxing where you just put two people on the ring and then it all really depends on the athlete itself.
Yeah.
But it's really a team sport like soccer, basketball. Everybody has a role to play.
Yeah.
If you bring it up to a higher level in terms of system-wise, doctors and nurses and allied health both have to know and work well with each other in order for the care to be delivered in a truly excellent way.
Yeah.
So this is why there is so much focus on teaming, and we are very interested to look at how teaming is like in different units. So sometimes you will see us, we will go in very gently in the way we don't want to go down as a top-down, James is here, something is wrong. No, if you know what,
So scary.
what nursing OD is really understanding what the system behaves. And we will work to bring out the best of the system.
Yeah.
Because there must be something that is already working well. Can we find it? And how can we bring people together? So I think this is really the core message of nursing OD if you have to bring back today, the people and the system.
Okay, so now that we're clearer of the purpose and vision of nursing organization development, let's dive into how we can apply these concepts into actual clinical practice. So a few months ago, we actually had our first ever nursing officer fiesta, and we celebrated our Organization Development Diver Award winners who were nominated by their fellow peers as exemplary role models of leadership on the ground. So, Brother James, would you like to share more about what ODDers are and what was the award about?
Okay, so the Are You Odd?
Yeah.
It's actually a campaign called Are You Odd?
Yeah.
Are You Odd? ODD, OD Divers.
Yeah.
Are You Odd campaign is a very meaningful campaign by my team. And special shout out to Sister Joey Yu for putting all this together. Yeah. So when nursing OD started in January, one of the tasks that CN really wanted to do is how do we energize our nursing officer who has done actually a very, very good job in leading their teams through COVID, bed surges, as well as all the workforce changes that we're experiencing.
Yeah.
And then how can we continuously let them learn to upskill themselves in leading. So we didn't want to do the old school way where we go down to the wards and say, hey, chief nurse, give an order. This is the culture we are supposed to build. This is the teamwork that you need to know.
Yep.
These are set of behavior. Everybody needs to comply. Let's get our act together. It doesn't work that way, really. These days, it doesn't work that way. So what we came in is, instead we actually held an appreciation ceremony, which is the Nurse Leader Fiesta.
Yeah.
And then we get all the leaders to send us their leadership stories, and then also tell us what are the qualities that stood out from the ground.
Being an NO yourself, and of course, before that, being a ground nurse, what are some qualities you think a nursing officer should possess to be a good leader?
Talking about the qualities that the nurse leader should possess, right? I must say, first, a disclaimer first. I also come from Nanyang Poly. We study nursing. We don't do business management or don't have leadership background. So I'm just like any one of you. We started from nursing, and then, of course, definitely when we step into a different role, right? As human beings, right, we will be a little bit uncertain or unfamiliar with the new environment, that we are stepping into. But just like, if you could think a nurse leader is just like the mother of the ward, just like our mom, right? So when you are stepping to become a first-time mom, definitely, you will be a bit fearful and honest. But I think the key qualities, if I may just sum up in 3 key things that I think is important. Number 1 is really the compassion. So the compassion is for your patients, your nurses, and then also, of course, for the medical allied health and everybody in the team, like what brother mentioned about the soccer team, right? The soccer team, yeah. So for everybody, and then treat them not just like a patient or a nurse who just came in, is a new hire and all this, but know them as a person. Yeah. Like for example, this patient, actually he had been multiple readmissions, and then got some issues, and then that as a person. Like for our nurse, she actually graduated from this school and she has interest in communications, for example. That's why we bring her in, to do this. So we try to better match that. That is with a compassion. And then I think the next thing is communication. So as nurse leaders, right, the communication is one of the key things that we need to do every day. And to me, communication, you need to find the right place, person, and time. I think nurses are very familiar with place, person, and time. I am the unconscious level chatting at all. So why the setting is very important is because you have to ask yourself, is this the right time to approach this person? You have something very pressing, but it's her day off. She's resting at home, and you do not know what is happening, and she'll be busy with a child and all this, or somewhere that she doesn't have a food with her and things. Is it really that urgent? So that is for the time. And then the place is really, is this the right place to speak to the person, or where there's a lot of distractions and all. The third thing is really the commitment to continuously learn. Like Brother James mentioned about COVID and all, we understand that we have to learn certain things, then we unlearn, and then we relearn again. So during COVID and the past few years, these things keep repeating and repeating. So I need to unlearn very quickly and then relearn, and then move on and all that. So for the NO, you need to have that positive mindset and then be willing to take on the new challenges. Yeah. So to me, commitment to continuous learning, compassion, and communication, the 3 C's in short.
Yeah, definitely. I think all these, like nurse leaders are what you mentioned, you are the moms, dads of the ward. So I feel like if you want a good like nursing culture, or a strong team of nurses and all that, it always starts with the leadership.
I think one important point is to clarify when in doubt. Because in the clinical setting, there's like 1,001 situations that can happen. But it's always to think that, there's no wrong decision, just a better decision. So I always advise the nursing officers to speak to your colleagues, your peers. There is actually someone that is on duty, to really hear from them how, is this way of handling good enough, and how we can do it better the next time, to strive for improvement. Yeah, so that is something that... this mirror check thing with the peers is actually very helpful, because it's group thinking instead of just thinking yourself.
Yeah. Not being stuck in an echo chamber also.
Correct. Yeah. To come up together.
I kind of agree with the 3 C's, and one of the C that stood out would be, how do you provide that open and safe environment
Yeah.
for people to communicate. Whether is it people coming to you with personal issue, or whether people feel safe enough to escalate a clinical event. So this culture is something that we look forward to with the communication.
Yeah. What are some examples then of how you've applied what we just mentioned in your clinical area, as you know, you take care and manage ground nurses and of course other NOs as well?
Maybe I can just bring back what actually impacted me when I was a junior nurse. So I had this sort of quite a bad encounter, a bad day lah. Then after that, it was just troubling me, and then I thought, this is not the way to go. Then I happened to take the train home together with one of the seniors, and then instead of keeping everything to myself, right, what I did was I actually opened my mouth, and then I share with her, and then she actually advised me, what to do next and all. So I think it's important, not just to keep things to yourself. Yeah, you have to open up and share with them. So when I do encounter nursing officers or nurses coming to me with some of the problems, I do encourage them to actually pen down their thoughts. I first thank them for sharing with me because I believe we will always share with someone that we think able to support us. So I will usually thank them first. Then after that, get them to pen it down. Because when it's all over your mind, right, it can be overthinking. So when you actually write it down, it's actually very powerful. Then you can refer to it and then see ways the pros and cons and how you can actually make certain decisions and all.
So what happened to the train story? After you share what happened?
Yeah, okay. So
I was waiting for the second part.
Okay, so after the three stories, so this senior, I still remember where were we standing and all, like where exactly. So she was sharing with me that everyone does encounter, ups and downs, and because this is towards another senior of mine, so she encouraged me to really back to the communication, place, person, and time. So she says that you need a right place and then time to speak to this person. So what I did very quickly was that the next following day, I actually dropped the person a text and I told the person, I need to speak to you about this matter. And a bit drama, I even booked a meeting room. It's like just to have a very quiet and protected time so that both of us will not be disturbed. And of course, she replied, okay. So,
just okay?
Just okay. So when she replied okay, then I think she was a bit shocked when she saw that, because when I booked, it's like a bit drama. Suddenly, so when she came in, she was quite puzzled, So I started with, I really, appreciate your support and all this, and then the conversation goes on. And after that, this story sticks with me because after that, I realized that actually you just have to talk it out with someone, and people may have encountered before. I mean, we have so many nurses, and then every day we have different situations that we go through. And sometimes someone can advise you on this and not to keep it to yourself.
I feel like I can totally relate to that because in the mental health episode, right, I talked about how when I was a new nurse, I had a lot of, or I was very scared of a lot of seniors. So one thing about me when I was a student, right, was that I just wanted to be everybody's friend, I just wanted to build rapport with everyone because I'm new and all that. I was like, okay, I'll try my best to be everyone's friend. So when I didn't really understand the concept yet of okay, when you take case, then nurses, right, when you're in your work mode, they can be very different people from when they are chill and relaxing, So I think when my preceptor will be serving medication or that, then she's super in the zone, right? Then I'll be like, so why did you join nursing? That kind of thing. It's not really wrong place, wrong time. Then certain ways that they will reply me, right? Then they'll be because they're really in their work mode, right? Then I'll be like, oh my gosh, they don't want to be my friend anymore. Then I'll get very personally affected by it. But then I realized one day, I was like, okay, maybe the setting is not right. So when we're in clinical, we really focus on clinical. Then afterward, I was like, do you mind we speak for a while? Then what you did also, we went to the storeroom, we dragged in 2 chairs, and then we sit down there, I talk about her. I'm like, actually, I'm a bit stressed, then that wall, we broke that wall. And then she was like, okay, actually when I was younger, I also had this kind of similar stuff. And she could share more about her story, growing up as from young nurse to now experienced nurse and all that. So really, I also really can understand why right person is that one confirmed already, but right place and right time is very, very important.
I think it speaks about the readiness of how do you want this conversation to be. A lot of time, it's the match.
Yeah.
So you really have to match it up.
Definitely. Okay, so what advice then will you give to nursing officers who are striving to be better leaders?
So just now I mentioned that nurse leaders is just like the mummies, right?
Yeah.
And,
Daddies and daddies.
daddies and mummies of the world, right? So you must many a times when we promote someone to the next level, they always ask, sister, I'm not ready. Brother, I'm not ready for this. But maybe I want to ask the audience, right? Who is ready to be a first-time mom? Everybody will say that they are not ready, right, to be a nursing officer. But first of all, you need to trust that you are good, lah. If not, why your boss promote you, right? There must be some good qualities in you that move you up to the next level. Yeah. So that I hope that helps to build the confidence in you and not to get stuck in this question mark.
Yeah.
Am I promoted? Then you will never come out, lah. So that's the first thing. I think the second part is do your core fundamental work well. Meaning your day-to-day, the day-to-day work that your daily roles that you need to do. Like for the nursing officers, it's more of the daily operations. You have to see to the development of the staff in terms of the career development and all before embarking on additional assignments like the CCAs and all that. Yeah. So once you trust that you yourself is good, and you do your core duties well, and then you can have your additional assignments and all. Then so I would think that mainly is these two key things lah. And last but not least, I think you need to have the heart to want to care for your people. Yeah. So it's not just about me, about the patients, about the staff. It's how you hope to improve the entire workforce together. Because I remember when I was promoted when I was in nursing education department from an ANC to the nursing officer, and I asked my boss what I do as ASC and the NO is pretty much the same. So back then, she actually shared me that no, Cui Er, you now have a more important role of developing the nurses. Really see the good in them, like what Brother James actually shared, and how we actually push them forward.
Yeah. Thinking back of when I was really like a young nurse, in our mental health episode, I think I shared a lot about how I really struggled a lot, with my mental health, my emotional, physical health, coping at work and all that. And I really found trouble trying to bring myself to talk to my leaders about it. I'm very worried about what impression would I give off, would they think that I'm not capable? And just being worried about what people would say, basically. So, what advice will you give to a nurse who might be in that position?
So for us nurse leaders, as I mentioned earlier, right, we all go through, as a new nurse, we were also once a new nurse. So we actually do empathize with actually what is, we are going through and all. But one thing that you mentioned earlier is that good that you actually share with your senior. When you share your senior, right, because they may have gone through that, right, so they'll be able to, when you bounce your ideas with them, they can actually give you some advice, and then you can actually learn from them. And then next is back to communicating and connecting, at the right place, person and time again. So if you're able to connect with your nursing leader, and then I'm sure as nursing officer, we are very happy to hear from you. Actually the fact that for a staff to walk forward, that's what I always tell my NOs, for them to have that courage to walk to you, to share something with you, that is already a sign that this thing could be in their mind for quite some time. And then, so that's why we should always take feedback or any of these concerns very seriously and work on it together and come out with collective solutions. Many a times we don't have answers. We think together, back to group thinking again, we think together, and then we come out with the solutions together.
So maybe I'll share the other side. I have one senior who was a very, very motherly-like sister in her area, and she's very, very well loved. But so I was doing communication work years ago, and she was telling me that, hey, James, we know communication to nurses is important, but we don't have time. I really want to find time, but by the time I finish all my changes as well as getting things in order, because ward can be very chaotic. It's about 7 p.m. already, and I need to go back home and feed my kids, and things like that. So I always somehow engagement with my nurses get deprioritized as the day goes by. But I really want, and I have the heart to talk to my nurses to find out how they are doing. So there are already many I think, initiative in the area by other departments looking at how to make work processes easier. I'm not going to go through that, but I just want to probably reassure our young nurses out there who may be feeling the same way, and actually the nurse leader will really want to engage you. And going back to the mantra that we are having, in the right place and right time, is really maybe, if you don't mind, take the initiative to block out a space so that your nurse leader will also be the right frame of mind that can really enter this space together with you to help you with your queries. On that part where you were saying that the reluctancy from the staff may come from that I don't want to leave any bad impression. I don't want them to think poorly of me. You'll be surprised that sometimes we want to hear from you some of your thoughts on because as a fresh eye, when you come into our clinical area, you probably will see things that we don't see anymore, or we miss out. So that will be very helpful. The change idea here perhaps would be that when you engage a nurse leader, when you bring in your thoughts, probably you also can bring some suggestion as well. That would be a good opportunity for the nurse leader also to listen to some of the ideas that may be out of the box, maybe younger, maybe fresher. So we definitely will appreciate that. Help us to do our work easier. I think the other a more easier way, if you feel that the nurse leader is always so busy, it is you could tap on your seniors. Start talking to your seniors who work with the nurse leader for a longer period of time. I think this is what TTSH Shared Governance is also doing. If you have some good ideas and you really want to improve things, you can join where people are able to listen to you and how to improve things. So I feel some such suggestion. Really, I think we want to hear from you. Let's find that correct space to talk together.
Nursing is such a people job, people-oriented job, not just between like us and our patients, and the people that we are caring for. But actually it is about the people that we are caring for in terms of like on this level, not nurse to patient, but like nurse to nurse, nurse to doctor, nurse to other healthcare professionals. So I think just building that kind of friendship or that kind of relationship with your colleagues is just so important, to be able to support each other. And for me personally, because we are talking about like younger and more junior nurse, right? I think the experience is still quite fresh in my head. Whenever I reached out to certain leaders, like what Sister Cui Er said just now, like we're all ultimately nurses. We are nurses. We're not trained with a background of like management or like HR and all that. So sometimes it can be a hit or miss kind of thing. Like certain leaders, you might not hit it off, just like with any friend that you make at a camp that you might meet, for example. But I think just having that persistence to not stop there and just feel discouraged right there and then, but to continue to push and find and talk to all. There's so many people around, right? And definitely as nurses, I think one thing that all of us have realized through all these conversations is that once you manage to go over that boundary and hit that point where you can have that conversation, you realize that actually all of us have so many similar experiences and so many similar feelings towards so many different things. So I think once I went past that hurdle and slowly, I was like, it's okay. Just because one sister maybe didn't really listen to me or say the stuff that I kind of wanted to hear or in a way that I hope to feel supported, doesn't mean that everyone is like that. So I continued on my journey and my quest, and ultimately, throughout the process, I found so many leaders who, really could resonate with me and could really empathize and support me in the way and encourage me in the way that I needed at that point in time. So that would be my advice to any young or newer nurse. With that, we've come to the end of this episode of Roll Call. Remember, you can also check out our podcast on Spotify at Nurses of TTSH.
If you like what you're seeing, and we're very new at what we're doing, so if you like, show us some love, follow us, like, subscribe and comment. Most importantly, please comment. We really want to hear from you.
And for more updates and opportunities to contribute to our future episodes, feel free to follow us on Instagram and TikTok at Nurses of TTSH as well. Any topic suggestions, anyone you would like to recommend to come here and sit here with us as a guest or as a co-host, as a content contributor, please drop us a DM as well. And as always, we'll catch you at the next roll call. Have a good shift, everyone.
Bye-bye.